So we're like 13 days away from graduation, and I've had some time to really reflect on some of the real reasons why I came to the United States. And I was going to go straight to law school because in South Africa, you can literally graduate high school and go straight to law school. But I felt like at the time I wasn't really ready to fully commit to the legal field because I like the idea of a liberal arts institution, developing the individual as a whole. You know, it's not just an academic portion, but it's really about fully immersing yourself, not just like intellectually, but like holistically.
I wanted to go.
That's funny.
Where?
LA and New York.
LA.
Yeah.
Then why'd you come to Atlanta?
Agnes, money, scholarship.
I decided to come to Agnes Scott because Agnes Scott at the time had quite a number of alums from my high school who came here, and they came back home to Ghana and they spoke so well of the college, spoke about how intimate it was, how they have real personal relationships with professors, and that I found quite appealing.
The beauty of going to a small liberal arts institution. For instance, when I had to study abroad, I completely forgot about the recommendation letter, and I told one of my professors 2 days before it was due, I was like, please, I need a recommendation letter, it's due in 2 days. And he was like, oh, I got it, let's dab on that one.
Double dab.
Dab, dab, triple dab, ba, ba, ba. Triple dab, ba, 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 ba.
Unfortunately, people who, have had the opportunity to come to, the West to have tertiary education are more preferred than, or relatively preferred than, people who went to universities back home.
Yeah, I feel like you get more exposed to your work field. I mean, as far as you look for
there's a lot of like emphasis on like internships.
Yeah. And I think it's very useful for like the future actually. I think, and that's why back in Africa they want people who went to school here because they have more experience.
So do you think your degree would matter if, like, in terms of connections, like, do you think when you go back home, for some of you, would it be mostly the connections? Does it matter when
I do not agree with the bias because, it's up to the individual and what they do during their 4 years in college.
When we first started ASA, we didn't even realize that we had over 10 different countries represented on the African continent from Agnes Scott. When a group of us came together, we spoke about why it was necessary for us to have a great club or environment that allows us to sort of talk about issues that are specific to our culture and where we're from. We're trying to create something that will sort of make us to feel extremely valued and important. And so we sort of created that safe zone for Africans to discuss some of the issues that they were experiencing while here at Agnes Scott and just generally in Atlanta.
I feel like, back home people are more social, towards strangers and everybody.
And also like, okay, let's say you do a group project with like your group mates.
Right.
You guys like actually like you're like friends after like that group project is done. Who, what, and where? Like, do I know you?
Me personally, I feel like I have been deceived. I won't even lie. We had a lot of recruiters coming from the United States to my high school talk about how like exceptional America is and we should all apply. And then finally you come here and it's like Molly's. Evans.
Oh yeah, I was also gonna say I think I was surprised about how little Americans knew about other cultures because the US is like in the center of the media and everything. So we know all about their culture, but then a lot of the times, like, honestly most people didn't know where Morocco is, and I get there's light-skinned people in Africa, that type of stuff.
Not kind of silly, but like coming here, I like actually noticed that I was black. Like when I was back home in Ethiopia, like everybody looks like me, so I didn't think of like racism or anything like that. And like coming here and like coming to the South, I knew that it might be more like might have like a bigger presence than it.
For me, what like really annoyed me about coming to America is people assuming that just because you're from Africa, there must actually be something really antiquated about you. That really annoyed me. Like, people literally walk up to you. You could have a normal conversation, and then you're like, "Oh, I'm from South Africa," and then their mannerisms like immediately change. Like, "Oh, really?" Like, feeling you don't have to enunciate. I still understand you.
Somebody asked me, "Do you have a lion or something in your back?"
Say something in African. You're from South Africa. My nanny's from Kenya.
Initially, I would get like kind of offended by like why they would say that to me, but then like as I stayed here longer, I started to like, you know, actually realize, you know, like it's not their fault that they think these things, because what they see on TV is like, you know, a starving kid or whatever.
With the fly. When I got here first, I wasn't offended when people asked me those kind of questions. I always, you know, think, why they didn't take history classes? Because, you know, I learned a lot in my history class back home, you know, but nowadays I actually get offended because I know there's like racism behind it.
I don't understand why we have to have the burden of educating them, because the honest truth is, when I watch TV and I have all of these, like, you know, stereotypical black movies and have all of these roles that are played, I don't necessarily walk around town going like, okay, I see a black man, they're all gang members. Or I see
Sometimes stereotypes get reinforced, so we don't know how many times they've had the same stereotypes or the African narrative where it's the poor black child.
When you're immediately the spokesperson for your country?
Yes!
Me, like someone who's from Rwanda, like when I got here, like every time I tell people
genocide.
that exactly, like, oh my God, how did you survive?
Yeah, I had like, I've learned to know that like, it's not that when you come to America that life has like, you're now like elevated. It's like, it's just different, and you just have to learn to accept that it's different. It's not necessarily like better.
So basically, the American dream is a myth.
Right.
For sure.
You know how they always say like freshman 15, freshman 15?
I'm still waiting for my freshman 15.
But I'm a big foodie, and I'm very passionate about African food in general. But then, you know, coming here, I had to psych myself up and be like, you know what? It's not gonna be the same, but at least I expected something. You know,
See, the first time I got here, the chicken was so big. I'd never seen chicken that big before. Like
Yeah, that's true.
I see that, and I was like, whoa, like.
No, in general, like the food portions are not like
It's like
massive portions. I'm just like, okay, that's how y'all tick.
I constantly had to, you know, spend money on caterers who would cook for me and bring it to me on a weekly basis.
We stand in the line and they're like, you're like, oh, can I have that? Because honestly speaking, if you went to Africa and you went to a dining hall there and you were asking for food of a name that you didn't know, somebody else would have been like understanding that, okay, you're not from here, so obviously you don't know the name. It's quiche. Have you seen how they treat Asian kids who can't pronounce the name? I have fallen in love with Nigerian food. In South Africa, we love spicy food, but it's mostly Indian spicy food. And when I came to the US and met some African friends from West Africa, they introduced me to jollof rice, which is just
Banku and okra soup. It's just so comforting, you know? And it's a meal. It's a whole meal. It makes me happy. Back home, we could party from morning to evening. No one is kicking you out of the club after 2 o'clock when I just got that 12 o'clock. Nobody's doing that.
Sometimes it ends too early. I mean, it's good and everything, but you can't be leaving home like 2 a.m. like you do back home. And some states that club shut down at 2 a.m. That's just hard.
Coming here, there were quite, you know, a few limitations, especially like with age differences. Like I had friends who, you know, were younger, and then I would be using, you know, an older ID, fake ID from back home. And, you know, it just created this sort of friction because we all want to go out, but then some people are underage, and that was a problem.
Your favorite African song? Wait, let me give you the beat. Start again.
Tell you, say I love you, oh. My money, my partner, your house, baby. I can't do the 30 billion for your Do you dance here at Agnes?
No, but I'm familiar with the school's dance program. I think there was a disconnect. I've taken 2 of the dance classes here and I just didn't really feel connected. I think because dance here is much more technical, there isn't necessarily a story. Sometimes it's about interpreting a particular choreographer, and obviously when you choreograph you have a story, and if you don't know the story behind why somebody choreographed a piece a certain way, it's hard to make it relatable.
Yeah, dating in America.
I'm sorry.
Delete. According to my family, I'm still a virgin. Sorry, grandma.
First, your parents has to approve him. Like now, it's just like, oh, I can like. I mean,
We don't tell them.
No, tell the parents.
Zero communication. Yeah, like in Ethiopia, your parents they don't no dating until you get married.
Yes.
It was so much easier to talk to the guys, and they're very straightforward. They're like, yeah, I'm in love with you. 3 days later.
You meet a young fella and you know they make it known that they are interested in you, and then you guys start talking, and then you know you're dating. In America, there's so many stages to this thing. Now you've exchanged numbers. Now you're just talking. Now you're just seeing each other. Now you're just dating. It's just like it's too many steps.
Right. It's true.
It's a process.
I've only really dated West African men, specifically Nigerian Yoruba guys.
Yeah, Nigerian.
The thing is, like, it's different with like dating Africans. Like them, it's more complicated. Like here, like they like put you in a higher level. You came from Africa. You should know the traditions and like all that. And I was like, honey, chill. Like I'm not about that.
I'm South African, and as you guys may or may not know, South Africa is really xenophobic.
Yeah.
And so I have real anxiety about being honest about with my family about who I'm dating, because I know they will not be well received. And for the first time in my life, I had to put a password on my phone when I went to South Africa, because I knew it would have been over if this person had FaceTimed me while I was there. God forbid one of these people at home pick up my phone.
During our first year orientation had a huge impact on my 4 years being here, and that I appreciate because I was able to interact and form strong bonds with people from several African countries, and that really had a positive impact on my stay here at Agnes Scott.
Really, it was a really great time, and I was like, wow, this is college. Like, these are the stories I hear about in college. Girls just sitting around a table and talking and having a good time and laughing, you know? And of course, I formed deeper relationships with some people that I would call sisters today.
I really, really do appreciate the sense of support that we have been able to provide to one another. I remember in my freshman year of college, I lost my mom, and I don't think I would have made it through that stage if I didn't have a strong, authentic group of friends that was just like truly supportive.
Agnes Scott has taught me to be myself, and that's one thing I'm grateful for. I definitely had a voice prior to coming here, and I would just say my voice, you know, is much more stronger. It enhanced my voice, you know, as a woman first, and then as a global citizen second.
Grass.
For the grass. No, I actually want to start a program.
I would donate
like for
to
African students.
I would start a scholarship for African students.
I think so too. Like
I think this is like one that some people may have like not even thought about, but I think it's just really important for the importance of them being able to visit their families. And, like, there's some people who will not go home for 4 years while they're in college.
Exactly.
So
like if there was a scholarship, if there was a scholarship they could apply for their second year, right? For example, like after 2 years, like, I mean, I'm sure it would be competitive because I'm sure everyone wants to go back home.
Yeah.
It's been challenging at times, especially knowing that you don't have family here. But then, you know, just the strong support system I have built here in Agnes, you know, has made it possible for me to endure and be here and, you know, ready to graduate.
That I